disconnected. There is a plague of loneliness and depression that people feel so isolated. And I just want to tell you, I got to mention you and I felt pretty darn special this morning. Um, you are definitely loved. And for me personally, COVID wiped out all of the maker fairs. It's hard when you teach 48 out of 52 weekends on the road for 20 years is what we did as a family. And then COVID just kind of made everything go away and we didn't see people. And for me personally, being able to teach and play wingman or just volunteer with Cash Money Kev and Alisher, Ross, obviously, and Nick behind the scenes, has been very good for me personally. I miss people to some extent. And I miss being able to transfer my skills and pay it forward. And so this little spot on the timeline of history, Wednesday nights and Thursday mornings, and of course, Saturday nights late, they're very, very special to me, just so you know. You're very special to me, each and every one of you. That's not blowing smoke up your skirt either. I really adore you. And I know you by name. I know some of the things about families and the things that you've confided in me. I take it as a privilege and an honor to be considered part of your world too. So, see, Masha has arrived. Masha was finding all sorts of things wrong last night in in the Discord. Many of you don't know TSI has a Discord, right? If you're a gamer, which I pretend to be, so I can get some inner city kids to do their homework. Discord is a very, very useful tool, right? Many of the things that we introduce you to here are not just to keep you connected, it's to teach you soft skills. So whether it's a Slack Pro channel, right? So you're learning those soft skills, or maybe it's to navigate Discord. Discord can be very weird for people that are overwhelmed with lots of information all at one time. Our friend Starboss, for instance, really struggles with Discord, won't go into Discord if she doesn't want to. So, but it's just another facet. It's just another arrow in your quiver. But Masha was in the Discord channel and I saw I saw her post. I'm like, oh, something is down. We must go and find out why. But I always enjoy that. I see that what comes to mind is here. Hi, Khalid. I am trying to figure out who you are. You're new to me. As you know, this is a class, folks. We're doing the down and dirty, getting it done, got her did, as they say out here in the Midwest. The people that we're bringing up on stage will be people that are in our class. You are participants. You have your digital backpacks. You have a project, and you are working on something, and we want to value your time. Although we do sometimes chit-chat, as I am doing now, it's basically to entertain you and fill in the space while the boys get everything working in the background. We work as a kind of a machine that way. I do see that Alisher has arrived. Alisher, I'm going to test your mic, and then, or better yet, I'm going to test Cash Money Kev's mic, and he is going to hand it off to you. That gives you a little bit of wiggle room so you can get a cup of coffee. Cash Money Kev, how are you this morning? Are you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as they say here in Michigan?
I am, Sarah. Good morning. Good morning. I hope everybody's morning is going as great as me and Sarah's. And I just want to say, Sarah, real quick, there's a reason we call you the godmother of innovation here in the space, and we love you, and you're part of our pocket family, and everything you do here does not go unnoticed. And we truly appreciate you. And that's why you're on the cookie list. That's why you're on the cookie list.
I am on the cookie list. It's delightful.
But just some quick opening notes from you guys. Be sure, if you weren't here last night, check out the ITT Incubator Program. It's just got put up on the ITT website. It's under our programs. Super simple.
It's not an incubator. It's an accelerator.
This is for Sarah caught me off guard. This is for if you guys are looking to scale your business, if you've already got your service or product worked out, you think you've got your target market figured out, and your target audience, you've already maybe made a couple sales here and there from what you've made, and you want to take it to the next level. You want to get the right people in your circle. You want to have hands-on validation, do some experimentation. Really, as Sarah would say, have the sharpen iron, iron out the wrinkles, and really just take your business to the next level, guys. Be sure there's going to be more information on that in ITT number 83 this Saturday, but be sure to check it out. It's up in the Jumbotron. Also, we do have the merch store up, and we do have some new merch coming for the spring. Be sure to keep an eye out for that. And any merch spot, we're going to be taking the profits from that and putting it towards getting innovators the tools that they need, and putting it back into the ITT ecosystem so we can make sure innovators have the tools and the ecosystem set up behind them to help them flourish. Besides all that, sorry, my opening notes went a little long there, Alisher. I hope your morning's going great, friend. I see that the stream is up. I'm excited to go over what we did last night. We did some advanced workflows. We actually, got a lot done of advanced coding, I'd say, and working hands-on with AI, and it was a super fun time. But anyways, without further ado, Alisher, I'll hand it over to you to do a little mic test. Hope your morning's going great, friend.
Good morning, guys. And yeah, I have my coffee. I'm ready to go. I was just pulling up some of the stuff from last week because I didn't do anything last night. I just sat here listening. And yeah, let's see. So we have a few of our people from last night. Now, my question is, does everybody have a workflow? Because my workflow is basic. My workflow has two inputs.
I think Magna is the only one that was missing. Well, Jack was also missing last night. So we want to make sure that those two are definitely caught up.
I
Go
am
ahead,
definitely
Magna.
not caught up.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry, Magnus.
I did miss last night, but I've got a workflow laid out and ready to go.
Yeah, so the workflow is the workflow from last week. So if you guys remember last week, we spoke about workflows, creating workflows, what you can input into your workflow to make it better. There's actually a few more things that we spoke about last night that we can add on to our workflows. So if you have a workflow, I'm in the AI Tutor API right now. I have mine. If you guys remember from last week, this is a workflow that we made during the recap. And this workflow takes the website. Now that there's website crawling, you can actually go through the content of the website, and then it can create a Google ad for you, right? It'll create you a few ads, and it'll kind of rate the ad for you, so you can decide which ad you like the most. Also, see the rating of the ad, see how effective it'll be for you, and a few things we spoke about last night that you can add to your workflow is this right here, where it says, "Give me the output in JSON format." So that will kind of make it a little bit more code friendly. So when we go into making our front end, you'll you have a bit of a higher chance of making like a definitive front end instead of the one where AI has to interpret something. Right? A JSON really just means structured data. The output is going to be well structured to the point where you can kind of start building out little pieces around it, and different components on that little story page, if you guys remember. And for me, I only have two inputs. You can have as many inputs as you want. For me, I just want a website and a company name. And then everything else, the way these ads will work is if you're like maximizing your SEO, of course, all of your content is going to be related to your keywording and all that. So I just have company name to refer to the company correctly. Everything else will just pull from the scraped information. And now when you test your workflow, the output that you're going to get, you'll notice it'll be code. So the code output is it's the structured output. And essentially what we're looking for in the structured output is things like this, where it has like the value, it has the property like title, subtitle, keywords, score, rationale, very well structured, all in one column, and then it has all of the outputs in the other column. And that will help us with the coding, right? Because let's say if I want to create a format, or if I want to create a component like a dial, like a pie chart dial, they'll give me the scores out of 10. Then I'll have a number to input instead of looking for this number in a block of text that's usually the output. This was the major shift, I would say, for us last night, where instead of just having the output as a block of text that we previously had, we have the output now as this structured data that we can essentially do whatever we want with in code, right? So when I start coding, I'll make a card for each option of an ad, and what it'll be is it'll be a card that looks like a Google search result, right? And then it's gonna have a title. It's gonna have this subtitle, which really this shouldn't be a subtitle. This should be like a description, because if you remember these Google ads, they have like a 3-line description typically. And then it's going to have everything else on the side with the keywords and whatnot. So let's say I'm going to edit my prompt and include a description. And this is how you determine, right? You figure out what you want it to look like. You figure out what your outputs are. If there's something missing, you can go back and you can edit. So for me, we'll do subtitle. Well, instead of subtitle, we'll maybe do description. Share a description of the service/product. That will appear in the results. And I'm using Gemini Flash just for speed, but realistically, you can use anything. We have web crawl, so maybe something more critical than Flash would be interesting. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any recommendations for a model that will make ads? What do you think, Ross?
It's 1111. So make a wish, folks. I just want to make sure you're paying attention, making a wish and listening to Alisher. I'm also snipping that little clip on the recording, Alisher. So the question that you're asking everybody can be saved and preserved. But I'm not seeing anybody's hands. So hopefully we've got some feedback for you, hon.
Grok? Okay, so I'll go with Grok. But if you guys have any suggestions, feel free. You can stop me anytime. But yeah, this is simple. I recommend you guys have multiple outputs. I mean, multiple inputs, multiple variables. Ross saying at least 5, depending on what you're doing. For me, I'm making something extremely simple. I might even go with like 4.0 mini instead because it's the cheapest one. Cheapest and fastest. One thing you got to remember too is you have a 10-second timeout limit on Vercel.
And literally everyone in this room right now, unless you pay them, you are locked at 10 seconds. So you have 10 seconds to do everything you got to do in your call.
So in Vercel, when you're making this request call, when your website is live, what you want to consider is which model is the fastest. And you can actually get around that timeout by using anything else but Vercel, by paying Vercel. Yeah. But you could also just use something like Railway, which we spoke about before, which will easily build this, something like Render. Really, any of these hosting websites will build your platform because it's PNPM, it's so light.
Or local.
Wait, what do you mean, like local and then tunnel it with ngrok?
Well, that, but always make it local, it always works.
Okay.
But tunneling will work. Will work. And you're That's fine.
You can make a Docker out of it.
You could.
Dockerize it. You could probably even put this in Cloudflare.
Pages?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could work.
Masha, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. In terms of having multiple variables, I was running into issues if one variable, like if it's not like a scraped output, um, if it's something the user has to input themselves, right? And they decide to not fill out every input field. I ran into issues because the field wasn't set. So I had to, like, is there a workaround or do I have to
Yeah.
like default it to a null?
Two workarounds. One, you can use your code to set something in that field, even though the user doesn't see it. That's probably the best way to handle this
Mm-hmm.
because our API considers everything you give us as mandatory.
Okay, I see. So basically that's what I did. I set those fields. Well, I said like if a field doesn't have an input, set it to null. So it's like
Exactly.
empty. Okay, so that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, that's 100% proper handling of the situation because if we made it a different way, it would make it potentially not use a field if anything ever goes wrong. So at least now it's like it has to use all fields. So all you have to do is just fill the field in with something null or just a space.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so, some things can be solved programmatically, right? For example, drop downs. That's a good option. Let's say you want your user to choose from a set option, a set list of options, instead
Yeah.
of wondering.
I'll have it in my workflow now.
Yeah, you can even set things like you can even set your prompt there programmatic, saying things like if this variable is true, then do this.
Yeah.
And then have a switch on a front end that sets it to true or false. All those things are very programmatic and all things you can fix with a little bit of coding.
Right.
And I'm just editing my prompt.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Now, any more questions? And feel free, guys. I have a little bit of a hard time seeing my screen because it's reflecting in the sun. So if anybody wants to unmute and just speak, feel free.
I have a question. It goes back to what Marsha had asked. So where in the code would you do that to make it null?
Where in the you're gonna have to like figure it out with AI if you don't know how to, structure the code and write that code on your own. So I don't like where on the page would you do that? Is that what you mean? Like where in our specific repository, what page
Yeah,
or component is possible for that?
yeah, I
Okay.
guess I'm going back and forth. I mean, so you're building the workflow, you're presenting it on a page, a user is trying to fill the input, but then you're going back, oh, if it's not filled in, before you do the commit, you need to make it null, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's something programmatic you have to figure out. But where you would edit it on the page, like the specific component that that has the workflows, it's on workflow. Okay, it's inside of app folder, dashboard folder again, workflow folder, page.tsx. That's gonna have your page that displays everything, and then what you want to do is there's also a component called story display that you might need to edit
Ah,
as well.
okay. That helps.
But how you would edit those components, that's something you're gonna have to figure out, right?
Yeah,
I'm,
got that.
I'm gonna
That
edit
I just
mine
wanted
to
like a
fit
guideline. I just
my
wanted the
use case,
breadcrumbs.
and you can edit yours to fit yours. Because all you gotta do is just copy this and paste it into AI. I'll show you. I haven't started making those edits yet, and very important when you do that, make sure your output is in some sort of a JSON format. Make sure it's structured.
Good
That's
point.
gonna be important, especially for coding. It'll make it so much easier for you. So let's see. Let's see what I can do here. I'm just testing these out. You can pretty much crawl any website, if you notice.
Well, the firewalls did not really crazy. But yeah, you can. Even the
And then I'm gonna edit this to look better, to look like a proper front end. 4.0 might not have been the way. 4.0 is still a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit slow for some reason. For a mini. Let's go back to
Hey,
Flash.
Alisher,
What's up?
since I was not able to get online last night at all, would you mind backing up, not in your execution, but just a high level, what did you guys do last night?
So last night we pretty much improved on our workflow, and
Okay.
we edited the front end to actually fit our workflow and to look like what we want it to look like instead of
Using
the front end.
when you say edited the front end workflow using the SaaS example that you guys provided, is that essentially what you're referring to?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Some things I gotta still edit in here.
And a whole lot of discussion around the workflow hub.
Yeah, and that's
What is the workflow
okay.
hub? Like,
Oh, the sharing thing.
oh,
That's just
okay.
share.
Yeah, but that's, that's for you guys to share your workflows regardless of whether it's an AI Tutor API workflow or any other workflow that you do.
And Alisher, is that's part of that new front end, right? For that you guys built, correct?
Yeah, it's something completely separate. Let's not
Right.
get into that right now because then
Yep.
we're gonna
Yeah,
get
that's fine.
confused. I
Yep.
don't wanna stray off too far. But you've seen it.
Yeah, it's
It's a
cool.
website that Russ has shared through the TSI account a few times.
Yep. All good.
But yeah, for now, what you want to do is, and the important part here, Jack, is you want your output, like for the work, like in your workflow in a Tutor API website, where you set your prompt and all that. Make sure you add at the end to give you a JSON format for the output, because then it'll be structured and it'll be much easier to code with. That was probably the important part that you need to know from yesterday about making your workflow.
Gotcha. I can see what you're doing there too. So, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that I'm getting some of these things that I will need to make my my front end look like an actual Google search result. So hopefully this will be better. Yeah, and you guys want to, for now, prioritize speed, I think. Because once you have structured output, all of them can do structured output.
Scroll down. See, this one listens so much better. At the bottom, there's nothing.
The other one had nothing at the bottom.
Yeah,
either.
4.0 gave you a sentence.
Oh,
Here's
did
your
it?
structured output you requested.
Oh.
And I'm just like, do we need that? You can see it in your last run.
Yeah.
Execution. It's crazy. It's not listening.
I want to say a 2-line description. I just misspelled description. Okay. All right, now what I want to do is I'm going to take this. I'm going to take the output, and I'm going to have to create like a front end. and we're gonna have to figure out what we want it to look like, because you kind of want to know what you want out of it first, right? And where all of these values are gonna go, and then you want to start coding it up. Give us another test. What do you guys usually use to code? I've personally been in Beam 3, and I've been using Claude Sonnet, the non-thinking one, 3.7, and it's been one-shotting like 1,200, 1,600 lines of code.
Do you think thinking makes it worse?
No, I think thinking just takes away from the context.
Oh, you're right. It's broken.
And the more specific you get with some of these things in your workflow, the better it'll be. Right? Then you're getting closer and closer to what you actually want. Search result. Okay, for now I think we'll try to turn this into a front end. Okay, let's see. We want to start with AI Tutor, and what you want to bring in, this is my trick. Of course, you want to bring in the page where this is located, right? So I'm going to grab the page. I'm going to add it to this conversation. You can drag these files in. What I usually do is I just paste them in. And then you want to look at what this actually uses. So here we know this uses a few things actually. This uses story display. So let's story display. Let's look for story display. This also uses workflow history drawer. Another component we'll need if you want to format what the history looks like. And then it also usually has an API route, right? So if your page has an API route, make sure to bring in that API route as well. And you can look for it by doing API /, and then as you can see, I have one, it's run. So I need to get this run route in as well. So now we kind of have everything that I would consider a dependency of that page. So now the AI will have an idea of what your front end looks like, what your components look like, and how your API operates, right? What kind of call your API makes. And now it's gonna allow you to make these edits much easier. So you'll be able to add your 2 inputs or however many inputs you have, and it'll edit them. It will also edit your API routes. It'll edit the history to handle it, and it will edit some of the story display as well. So the things you want to bring into this AI conversation again is the page, the components that are mentioned on this page that you have. In our case, I have story display and workflow history, and the API route, which is when it makes the call, right? So once you bring those things in, And that's going to be typical for most of the things you use AI to code with. So if you have
What's
any other
the
project and
work?
you have a page, what's up?
What's the workflow history? Why would that be important? Or what does it do?
Well, okay. So I highly recommend you go through the front end. I'm gonna log into it as well and actually look at what the front end does. And you'll see what the workflow history is. Sometimes reading the code helps. I think I already have an account. So let's go to our workflow. So here's our workflow, right? Our workflow page. You have your input, and below the input, when this is generated, it's going to be the story display. And then when you click the history button that you have here, you have the workflow history. So that's what it does. It
Oh,
saves your
okay.
output.
Thank you. Thank you.
I highly recommend you guys actually go through this app and try it out and see what it does and try to match it up with the actual code, right? So we have our page, we have our component, and then we have this other component within that. That's how all these Next.js things are going to work. You're going to have a page, and then you're going to have components that make up that page, and then you might have components that make up other components. Okay, now what do we want it to look like? Well, we want the input to be simple, right? So here I have website URL, and I need company name. So let's do it this way. Let's give it the output first. All right, so here we have our output, we have our template. Let's go to deploy. We're gonna give it this. I think I have to edit maybe the workflow ID as well from my end. I'm gonna say here is the inputs I will be using, website and company name. And then I'm gonna say here's the output and the format of the output I'm getting. It's in JSON. I can just take this last run and give it the output. I could also view raw and give it the output. But it gives it to us in JSON, so we can use JSON. Okay, so now that it has all this context, we can start building out our front end. And I want my front end to look like a Google search, right? So what I recommend you do is use ChatCN, and you kind of give yourself a bit of an idea of what components can be and what the components can look like. So some things from here that I think are cool. Let's go. Components. Card component, very common. So I'm gonna say I want each output option. And here you have to use the lingo, right? So here we have things like option, link, title, description, keywords, score, rationale. So here you kind of have to use the component lingo and the code lingo that you have, determined for your structure. Now you have to link the front end of what you see to the structure of your output or database, right? This is how you build the front end. You visually link it. So I want each output option to look like a Google search result. Then I'm going to say each output option will be a card. So I'm going to use this card component. I'm going to say it will be a card component from ShatCN. I'll be using ShatCN for this. Okay, now we know what it looks like. It's going to look like a search result. So if you want this to understand it better, you can give it an image. So now we're going to say, we can actually give it an image of a search result. So let me get a search result for my TSI. Ooh, it actually has an image as well now. So, but we'll skip that. So here I took a screenshot and I'm going to add it to this conversation. I'm going to say, I want it to look like a search result. I'm going to say, look at the image. Now, each option should have a company name at the top, link below that. Then what do we have? Title. Then title wrapped in a link. And then a description. So we're kind of, with words, have to recreate what a search result looks like a little bit for it. So look at the image and create this card component from ShatCN. Now, what I think we're going to do is we're going to add something next to it. So next to this card component, let's add the analytics card that will correspond to it. The score should be a pie chart. Let's see if ShatCN has anything for that. I don't think so.
What are you looking for?
Like a pie chart in ShatCN?
Yeah, no, I didn't see that. Try to put that. We may have a chart.
That's okay though. But you guys can find some other things, like some other displays that they have that are super useful. Search for graph. No. Do they have blocks too? Oh, charts. There you go. There it is. Pie chart.
What's the right color?
By the way, this is what almost every single Next.js website will use, is some sort of this variation. Amazing.
We use this actually in our API for the graph.
Let's do pie chart. Uses recharts.
I thought it'd be my chart.
Then you can copy this code as well and give it. Copy that over. Okay, so the score should be a pie chart. Score should be a pie chart. Here is an example below. And the list of what else is there? A list of keywords and rationale. And next to that should be a list of keywords and the rationale. So basically, there are 4 columns, right? If we're putting this on as kind of like a table, 4 columns. First column is the biggest. It's the option that looks like a Google search result. Second column is the score pie chart. Pie chart with the number in the middle. Third column is the keywords. And fourth is the rationale. This should be the look and structure. Can't type the structure for each option. And not the output to it. So something's in here. You really want to be specific, right? You really have to describe what you want this to look like. That's very important. That this is how the AI will have the best shot, right? Like I was implementing some changes yesterday into Pixio, and I would maybe spend like 20 minutes just typing out the first request. And that's how you one shot something. You give it very specific instructions. So here I'm giving it exactly what I want it to look like. I'm using the lingo. You have to kind of use the lingo. You have to really like refer back to these variables and map each variable verbally. So then the AI can do it for you programmatically, right? Realistically, you can even use voice. You can use the voice to type. You can go to Multibot and you can use the voice there as well. If that's easier for you. I think that's something I'm going to test as well, using the voice. But for now, I've just been typing out all these instructions. You want to get it first shot or as much in the first shot as possible. And you want to be very specific. You'll notice things like, just do this for me. You're not going to get great results, right? You're going to leave a lot for the AI to fill in and it might not fully understand. And let's see what Sonic gives us. And then since we have all the files in here, we have like 4 files in here that we mentioned that are related to this one implementation. It's going to tell you where to edit these files, what to do with them. So here it looks like I'm going to need a few edits. I'm going to need to install recharts as well. And this is how you kind of get the most code, the most accurate code out of your AI. So let's see what we got to edit. At this point, you can put it side by side. I like to put them side by side. Easier that way. I have 2 screens. So if you have multiple screens, it'll make it easier for you to edit as well. Let's see. So it starts with story display. So yeah, let's look for story display. And for me, I don't like to scroll around. I will literally just look for the name of it. There's a search on top for a reason. Looks like it gives me the full code for that story display. Cool. Has some errors. I probably need to install that. Now, looks like it wants me to install recharts. So you can keep things running. And actually, no, I might need to stop it because PNPM sometimes has issues. And then if you use NPM, you'll do NPM install. If you use PNPM, Performance Node Package Manager, you'll do PNPM add instead of install, add recharts. Says make sure you have the card and the component, the card and the batch component. Well, for the batch component, I can just install it. This is from ShatCN. And the way ShatCN works is you can look for a component, and then it's going to give you the code right here to install it. There's also an option to manually add it. You can just create a file. But typically, just running the command works. So in this case, it worked fairly easy. Utils, that's already edited. And now it wants me to edit the page, the workflow page. So again, I'll look for that keyword, workflow. And here I have a few options, but I know it's the one that's page. So I'm going to go to page. Now, does it give me the full code? Always double check. Yep. And looks like that's it. Now I'm gonna restart it and we're gonna see what it looks like. PNPM dev. I have to actually log in. I forgot. This is the Vercel version. All right, gotta make another account because I forgot the password for the other one. Cool. Now let's check out what this workflow page looks like. All right, we have a URL. Now, there's some things in here I think that we need to edit. So I need another input. So I'm going to say there should be two inputs. One for website with label website, and one for company name. Okay, company name. Double check. No, just company. One for company. We'll label company because that's what the API expects. What the API expects. And there should be a small edit on the page. Now, I use Sonnet because it has like 200K output. I think O3 has 200K input output as well in total. And so for these smaller changes, you really won't need to go anywhere else. For this project, you probably won't need to go anywhere else. And this is how you're pretty much gonna work. You're gonna take these changes, paste them in, and then test. And then if you run into any errors, you can always troubleshoot them with AI, fix them with AI. Uh, but a lot of times you flat columns. I wonder why. Company name at the top, yeah. And then sometimes it won't give you the full code. And in that case, you can ask it for the full code. So I think it didn't give the full code just now. So that's what I'm gonna do. Let's see. So this right here, story display. I'm gonna say, give me the full code for story display. And company, number 6 something's there. Company name, and title, and 2 different things. Track company name from the company. We'll see how this works out. And another thing is it saves to the database, right? So this when you parse this through, it's going to save to the database. So maybe in your database you want to save some of these inputs as well, right? So you might need to add some extra things in there. What I highly recommend you also do is take the entire repository and put it in AI Tutor. And then you can say on this page, on the workflow page, I want to do this. Let's see. Story display. And this is how it's kind of going to work. I'm gonna save this in a minute, and then I'm gonna go back to it, and we'll see what it looks like. And then if it doesn't look like the way we want it to look like, well, we'll keep editing. I'll go to File, Save All, and let's check this out. There you go. We have 2 inputs now. I don't have any history, and we're gonna start with, let's do my TSI website. I'm gonna say Tech and Schools Initiative. And you guys can have as many inputs in here as you want, as long as they properly correspond to whatever the API is expecting. Another good thing to do is to inspect, and I recommend you guys inspect network. And let's see. Okay, so this has some sort of issues. Some syntax issues. Let's see where we can look at this. You troubleshoot by going in here and checking out some of these runs. Could also say this is what the raw output looks like. Jeez. Scrape. I see what you mean, copy button.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it. You can just get it from the response. That's what I did.
Yeah. Also exports as JSON. Nice.
Again?
This exports as a JSON.
Yeah, this is.
This one. Let's give this to the AI. The AI will fix it for us. I'm gonna say when I run it, I get this error. And let's give it some of this stuff too. So all these.
And it works in workflows, right? Like there you go.
Mhm.
Yeah. And your workflow ID changed.
Oh, you're right. I do need my workflow ID.
That's why it's not working.
You're right.
That's the
I did
JSON
not
version.
change it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in between computers all the time.
Yeah, that's it. Right?
Yep.
That's it.
Ross is absolutely right. I need to get my variables straight.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah, I did it. Been there, done that.
I don't even have that many workflows.
I know, like what?
All right, so typically when you reload the ENV, you should definitely reload the page. So we'll reload the page and we'll try it out.
Easy. That's why I did workflow run 1, run 2. That's what it. Actually work.
Yeah, it's actually running. So
What will happen, I don't know, but it will actually work. So that's what you got back.
yeah,
That's the format. So just give it that.
yeah.
What do you do? What do you do?
It says I provided invalid URL somehow.
No forward slash?
Well, it's worked before. Let's try to run it in here. Test it out. Oh, this definitely gives it a response, but let's troubleshoot this with AI because this is that's a bit of an easier error to troubleshoot.
Might be on your.
Yeah, might be the way we're passing it.
Awesome.
So what we want to do in this case is we're gonna go to run, check the payload, and yeah, the payload. Looks like we're passing it. I don't know why. Okay. We're gonna say there's a few things we gotta do to fix this. Whoop. I'm gonna say instead of content in the payload, send website and company. It's the way we're sending it. And company. And then what we could do is we can actually probably get this deploy code. Because this is essentially what it runs. Say otherwise, I am getting this error. There we go. Website and company. are the input variables we're sending to the API? To the API. There is no content variable. But yeah, this is the thing. This is another thing. You can't just say to the AI, here's a code, it doesn't work. Because you kind of have to specify, well, what about it does not work? And this is where you do the troubleshooting and you actually kind of, figure it out. Because it's not just like, here it doesn't work. You really need to figure it out. There is some engineering to it, just understanding certain logic. So let's see, this is the workflow page we have to edit. And you'll notice we're pretty much going to be working within the same few pages to edit this. You're not going to be editing every single page, just going to be editing this one workflow page, this one component, and this one route. So workflow history drawer as well. Okay. Okay. Now I'll save all. And we'll give this another try. Give this a refresh and let's try one more time. I have 2 more tries remaining before I run out of messages. I have to make mine 50. Yeah, but this is the idea. You're essentially aligning the input, the front end, to what you see. So for me, it's really just the input. So I think what I need to do is say, give me just the JSON.
I had it auto formulated to the JSON we wanted.
Let's see where I'm getting these responses. Okay, so what I could do is say, here's the actual output. And then it'll format it. I'm going to say, here is the actual output
I think you just need to render markup.
I am getting. As you can see, starts with that. As you can see, the JSON is in the result of the output. So align my front end to properly display it. To properly extract and display it. Extract and display it. So once you get your output to be consistent, you can. That's when you really want to set up this alignment. We'll see right now if it actually works. So it gives us the full story display. Story display is our output in this case. It's how our output is displayed. Oh, and he didn't mess with the markdown a little bit. And this is work. I'm gonna say, give me the full updated code. Give me the full updated code for all the pages, routes, and components. And I would just sit there, sipping our coffee, wait for the AI to finish making this change for us. Let's see. The page. Then I think it's the component. Story display. And what's good about these thinking models, or, well, I guess, yeah, it's really most of the thinking models, they have large output. So you can really take advantage of that and edit multiple pages at once instead of getting cut off. Oh, wow, it really gave me all the code. Well, we don't need to keep going into that.
Oh, it's going all the way.
It's giving me all the code for the badges and cards as well. All right, let's try this one more time. One more left. And this, always have this inspect when you're testing in the network. It helps you see all the requests, right? The requests you're sending, the requests you're receiving. And look at that. Now it actually looks proper. So now you can keep messing with the little formatting and the little changes like the sizes and whatnot. But other than that, this looks pretty good.
I love that button, Alisher. Just so you know, you deserve the clapping. They
Oh,
gave me a,
how do you make that
go
happen,
ahead.
by the way? Is that only co-host and the clapping, or how do you make it
Yeah,
happen?
you can clap too if you push the little magic wand. But sometimes it's one of those things. It's a great joy of being a wingman is that you get to do certain things and clapping for people that deserve it. I'm hoping that everybody had a good result. I'm following along in the background. For many people that don't realize, Cash Money and Kev and I usually get our stuff done on Thursdays because there's so many toggling and running through behind the scenes on Wednesday nights. And so sometimes you just get immersed in it. And for me personally, watching this play out again, I don't know about other folks listening in, but you start feeling so empowered because you see the applications and how it can be used in a real profitable way. I mean, in ways that really will change your stars. I've been noticing, I'm trying to find the exact post, maybe to put it up top. You know, people are using these exact skills to create games, to create apps. There is an app that was just created last week that is pulling in over $1 million. If you can tap into something, a need that solves it's a solution that solves a deep need. Um, the world is your oyster right now. There are not very many people that have access, but B, acumen, right? you are only limited by your own parameters, by your own, glass ceilings. The fact of the matter is that you are such a minute, very small percentage of the world's population that have access to these tools. You have first mover advantage. And, to see the kinds of income people are bringing in. I mean, for me as a Gen Xer, we were always taught you have a yearly salary. These younger kids that are doing fantastic stuff, they're like, yeah, I actually need $5,000 a week, not a month. The parameter has totally shifted, and the ability to earn serious income is right there at your fingertips. It really truly can change your stars. And for those of you that are living in areas that have um, you know lower standards of living, that things are not as expensive. I'm in the Midwest, so I can have a mansion that is like, 300,000 dollars, as opposed to, in New York or San Francisco, that may get you a parking spot. It's all relative based on where you live. But the fact is that in this day and age, you have at your fingertips the ability to break free and to have mobility, unfettered mobility. You just have to harness the discipline to park your butt in a chair and the willingness to work harder than the normal person would ever do, to live a life that the normal person will never achieve. And I know that sounds kind of wonky, but it's absolute truth. Seeing today and how it's unfolded, Alisher, and also noticing it's always great to have a second set of eyes. Alisher couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. And then instantly Ross is like peering over his shoulder. For many things, we are that for each other. Rutro has noticed all sorts of stuff coming out of the woodwork. She'll ask a question. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make that mistake too. That's the beauty of having people that are looking over your shoulder, that understand what you're trying to achieve. And then you have the ability to teach each other, to teach us to learn twice, as we said to John last night. So kudos to everybody. I don't know how we'll tie this off in a little bow, Alisher, but I did want to give you your kudos and your flowers, because I love seeing this stuff. I do. It's exciting. and I think Wednesday nights and Thursday mornings are delightful. Masha, your hand's up, my love.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Before we wrap up, I kind of missed the part yesterday because I was like in the zone and not really paying attention because my code was acting up. But the part about like crawling websites, and Ross said something about fire crawl or something like that, but it's a paid thing, and I kind of got confused. Like, but it's still possible to crawl websites with like our API access, right? Like it's just
Hey,
dependent.
I can answer this question for you. So there's three things going on. First, there's Firecrawl. It's a company, right? You could pay them, they're like $90 a month, and they could scrape through everything. So they can get through
Exactly.
captchas, they can get through Reddit, like whatever. Now, I built Firecrawl. It's also open source. So if you know how to build your own Firecrawl, you can do all the things that they charge for free. So
Like
I built
by exit,
Firecrawl and I put it in the
like using
API
the
for you.
GitHub repo.
Yeah, from
Or,
GitHub. You can build
okay.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So I built it and I included it as part of the infrastructure of the API. So our API can crawl Firecrawl, but it doesn't use firecrawl.dev. It uses our own implementation of Firecrawl, which you can totally do because it's on GitHub. So you're not losing credits to crawl websites, for example, on our API. You're losing credits to run the API, which does inadvertently use Firecrawl, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kinda. So what do I have to do
For what?
to like use those features, but not pay $90 a month?
So you're doing it right now. If you're using the AI Tutor API and you use the website content option, that uses Firecrawl.
Okay, and it depends on the model I'm using, right?
It actually doesn't. It's model agnostic. Firecrawl has nothing to do with the model. The good best
Ah,
practice is do the fire crawl before the model stuff. So if it's like, look at this website, and website is the variable for fire crawl, and it crawls the website, take that content and do other stuff, then that's the model. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a little weird, but basically the fire crawl is agnostic. So you could use GPT-4o, which has no internet access, right? And you could use Firecrawl, which would kind of give it the ability to surf the internet for that one specific URL.
Okay, okay, now I got you. That's the point where I got lost yesterday and decided to like focus on my code. Okay, so now I got you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was like, did I miss it? Did I miss it yesterday? I was like, where's this fire crawl? Where's it coming from? I had the same thing.
Exactly.
But yeah, Firecrawl is right here. It's essentially where you have the options for the modality. You have text, text area, number, and then you have web page content. So that web page content will crawl the page and get like the raw data of the page, like the raw text, and then you can use the AI to essentially like process that however you want.
Okay, yeah, because yesterday I thought I need to like get some other tool as well in order to do that, and then I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to scrape any websites at the moment, so I kind of let it be. Okay, but thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, and guys, for next week, the main part for you is to essentially build out this front end, right? For example, for me, as you guys saw, it was simple input, yet the output and the way the output is interpreted by the front end wasn't so simple. So that's what you're focusing on, is actually building out what this front end will look like. And yeah, depending on what you're doing, for me, I chose the simple inputs, a lot more complex, and a lot more well-designed outputs. You might need something different. Maybe you have a lot of inputs, so you might want to consider how to simplify your inputs for the user, right? Give them less options. You might need to consider how to try to fit all these inputs on this page, so maybe the user doesn't have to scroll around as much, feel overwhelmed. And then, of course, focus on your outputs. If you're outputting as a JSON, you have the structured output that you can be consistent enough and build a good front end for. Any questions before we wrap it up, guys?
I'm not
I
seeing
have
any
a
hands.
quick
Oh, there you
one.
go.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Sarah. No, you're good. I have a quick one, Alistair. I think, if I remember correctly from last night, Ross mentioned also we needed to make a second workflow. Is that correct? And we needed to uh, just kind of do this a similar, like get it up to the same point,
You
like right
should.
here. Well,
You should do that just to give yourself, a review. Like once again, like this shouldn't just be a dormant project until you come back to it next week. Make a few workflows. Make 2, 3 extra workflows. And now look at that. Now you have 3 or 4 tools that you can have in your app that you can advertise and have different tiers for. Right? That's the idea, is that different workflows could be like a different tier that they pay for. So yeah, definitely make a few workflows. Like once you learn something, like for example, last week we learned about creating these workflows on the API side, right? Creating the workflows and the prompts. You should already have a few in here. Then today we learned how to build out the front end for each workflow, right? So you should build out a few of these pages, not just have this one workflow page. But yeah, definitely do a few, right? If you do a few each week, then by the end you're gonna have your own kind of like suite of apps that you can advertise and promote. What's up, Jack? I see your hand up.
Hey, yeah, could you just go to the front of this page just so I can see the front end, the cards, did you modify the cards to get to the Google ad generator?
Like, what do you mean? What cards?
So, so you built the SaaS app, right? So the very front end of this app, I'm
Like
just
the
looking
front
to,
page?
yeah, yeah,
Like this
because
page?
what happened, well, yeah, I pulled in my repo and then when I don't know, I did a push or something. I pushed a bunch of private information and then I did used Git Guardian and it said that like all kinds of people accessed all my stuff. So I got the whole thing blown up. Yeah. So here, where do you go to get to um, the workflows? Did you modify this part of it where you actually get to that Google ad generator, for example?
Well, that's already all set up. For example, in here you go to dashboard, and it brings you to the inside, the logged in page,
Okay.
right? This is where
Yep,
from the menu it's there.
that's what I was, okay. And then from there, then you would launch your
Yeah.
Google ad generator
Yeah.
or your
So
other
yeah. So
workflows,
check
whatever
this
you
out.
build.
So what you're saying is you couldn't get from this front page to the inside of the app, right?
Correct.
Right. So check this out. It's very subtle, and I know what you mean. In the top right, there's a little circle for the profile. Like it might have a letter in there, and there you have this
Yeah,
for dashboard and sign out.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and that
Now,
brings
I
you
thought I
inside.
was trying to follow the flow so that I could go in there and fix the disaster I created. So that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
for right now, what I highly recommend is you focus all your edits. Don't worry about like the front page, what the front page says. Focus all the edits on this workflow page, and
Yep.
focus on creating second workflow. Right.
Okay. So if I essentially create multiple workflows that I can get to at some point in the future, then
Well,
I'll
that's
be
that's
caught
part
up.
of the learning part, right? On your own,
Yeah.
you're kind of
Yep.
gonna have to like a lot of the learning. I would say maybe about 40% of the learning happens here. The other
Okay.
60 you kind of have to do on your own, right? That's how
Yeah.
learning
That's fine.
happens in college. That's how I remember it. And you're gonna have to figure out, okay, how do I edit the side menu? How do I add two more of the same links to the side menu? How do I add new pages that will, let's say, lead to different links instead of workflow? Maybe it goes to workflow 2, workflow 1, workflow 3, whatever you name that page. So those are some of the smaller things that you're kind
Yep.
of going to have to either work with AI to figure out, or if you're proficient enough and you've connected those dots
Hmm.
already, you can just sort of speed through it, right? But for now, your first step is focus on creating your first workflow page that's already there, editing that to align with your workflow, to align with the outputs you're going to have. So that's the first step for the homework till next week.
Yep.
And then if you're
Okay.
done with that and you're like, okay, I have a good hang of this, I want to do it again to get better, and I want to do it again one more time to get even better, then that's where you go. But for now, focus on what's already there and editing that workflow page. Don't worry
Yep.
about the front page. Don't worry about any other pages. Don't worry about the sidebar for now. Once you get past that first task that you have, then you can think about going to the next one and how to do all these other things and continuing to learn.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
All right, Ro, you have a question?
I do. I'll continue being the annoying student. And now, after that little exchange, I'm wondering if I should even ask, but here I go. Um, how about the source code for the Masha's request from last night and Ross's fabulous stuff from all the images and the output thing? Or maybe that's
That's not a question to me,
for
right?
later
That's a
on.
question. That's more of a question to Ross.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Ross is gonna upload it to GitHub. But again, another thing is, guys, you're building your own projects. You're not building Ross's project, right? So Ross's project might not fit you. And if you have Ross's project, think about not learning that you're doing, right? The idea is that you work with this and you learn. Because the more you work with it, the more you'll learn. If you just get Ross's project and you launch it, you're not really learning. Then it's going to confuse you even more because then, well, you got to figure out how to work with Ross's code, right? So focusing on the simplicity of it, on the simplicity of what you have to do, I think is what's important. And if you get down to the core, what you're doing is you're aligning what the front end looks like and how the front end works to the output of the API and the inputs of the API. So that's what you're essentially doing today. That's how you're building out the front end. You're aligning what the API expects to what you're inputting and what you're displaying.
Now you know why. Hence, I didn't want to ask after the an earlier
No,
exchange.
you're gonna get the code, and then you can get my code as well. I'm gonna make this public. I just noticed it's private by accident. Um,
And I really I think the important point. I'm just going to keep it to one variable at the beginning, right? And then you can play around with it, and then you can add, right? So
yeah,
it is really
yeah.
about
So what you can do is you can start with one variable, and you're gonna have that base, and then you can say, okay, well, I edited my workflow to have all these variables now. Add those variables on the front end too, right? So that's how you can keep building on top of it.
Yeah, I would say definitely do that because John, when he first did it, he put like 8 workflows, and it's super confusing if you have 8, 9 workflows and you're starting to build. You have to start with one at a time and slowly build on top of it because your code's going to keep getting longer and longer.
And you'll notice, okay, yeah, that first one it was really slow. For example, when I just started working, like I was building out the AI Tutor front page, and those first few things were like a lot of trial and error. It was very slow. But then I was like, okay, well now I kind of have an idea of exactly what I want out of it. And then, I would say 80% of that front page happened after, I finally got the idea, I finally got the hang of it. And like that first 20 was really slow. It took a few days for me to get through the first 20% of the work on that page. And then the 80% started to flow.
Yeah, I really appreciate this, Alisher. You're sort of walking through sort of the thinking process of working through the problems. So it didn't go unnoticed with me.
Yeah. Your initially it's going to be slow, but then you'll notice like, okay, you did the first one. That first one might have taken you 80% of the time that you allocated to yourself, but you'll notice that that next 20% of the time that you have left, you might be able to do 2 more workflows because now you have a really good hang of it. What's up, Masha? You have your hand up? We'll do the last question.
Yeah, just a quick thing. Part of my project I'm working on is like using that chatbot, and I'm not really sure how to implement it. Because I created a chatbot and then it says either deploy or embed, right? But I don't want an iframe in my code or on the side. So I basically would have to go through the Vercel AI SDK, right?
No,
Just
there is.
to make long story short, are you going to cover that? Like, I would love to chat to my to an PDF. That's the goal, and just trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. So
Are you going to cover that in some lesson, like maybe next week or
we'll
the
see.
week after?
We'll see if we'll cover chatting, but you can go to the streaming page in the example in this repo,
Right.
and as you can see, streaming has the chat UI,
Exactly.
and you can do whatever you want with it.
And in addition, it's also covered in the docs how to hit the streaming. And why it says Vercel is because we're using the Vercel AI SDK the way it flows. So the same way that it works with AI SDK, it works with us.
Okay, so what would I use then? Streaming or chatbot? Like,
If you don't want the
I'm
branding,
confused.
if you don't want the branding stuff, you'll use streaming.
Okay.
Chatbot is just an easy one because it's the embed. You don't have to build out your
Okay.
own UI for the chatbot. Streaming is
I see.
it's hitting it like raw. The inputs and the outputs is hitting it like and from like the rawer side where it doesn't have a UI, right? Streaming is where you built out your own UI.
Okay, so just to make sure I really got that. So I would make a workflow to and instruct it to take the PDF and extract the data from that and chat with and answer all the questions the user has.
So, Masha, basically, it's two different endpoints, right? So streaming has nothing to do with your workflow at all.
No, but she's right though. She's right though. Yeah.
But yeah,
You would make a workflow that extracts from a PDF, and then you would take that workflow, that output,
And-
and you would add it to the streaming as like the
Exactly.
first as like the first system message or something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
As long as you understand they work
Yeah.
totally separately, you're good to
You
go.
could also do it programmatically. You don't need a workflow. You can programmatically extract
Yeah.
data from a PDF if you want to, instead of using
Okay.
AI for it and then hit it as like the first system message or something like that.
But definitely
Okay, awesome.
a token that lets you do this. It's a special single-use token that your app can generate to chat.
Yeah, that was something I saw. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so but then I can like delete the chatbot. I don't really need it, and go through that streaming thing and configure it in the backend, right?
Yeah. Then you can focus everything in terms of configuration on the AI to the API
The only
website.
thing I will say is you can install the AI SDK. So you could do like npm install AI SDK. That will give you the packages, same packages we're using, but we're not going to use the Vercel AI SDK because it requires a key. We're using our own, but it follows the same like structure. Basically, we
So-
built it on top of the AI SDK.
Okay, so will it make sense to install it or not? I mean, if I don't really need it,
Well, you're
then I wouldn't
installing it
do that.
because it's using parts of it, but we're not using the API key part. So you
Mhm.
could install it and it will help, but it won't do anything. It'll just make it more stable because it can work without the SDK as well.
Okay, good. I'll figure it out.
The reason why we did this, Masha, is because let's say you have an app already and it works with the Vercel AI SDK. You can migrate it to use this instead, and it won't be much code changes. That's the reason.
Right. Makes sense.
But the way it works for us is instead of a key, you pass a token with your chat. So it's a single use token that can be generated every time the user's chatting. And if you look at our documentation, there's an endpoint for chat and streaming. And that's what we're using basically. So if you look at Alistair's demo, he has streaming there. So all you have to do is take what's going on there and put it in another part of your app. And then streaming chat will work.
Perfect. I just need to include it with the PDF kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you could even make your app in a way where like user uploads a PDF and then it stores itself in like a bank of PDFs, right? And you could use like
Right.
Superbase to do that. Then when they click the PDF, it also has the markdown associated that you've associated. And then it could feed that into streaming into the chat.
That's the goal. Exactly.
Yeah, this is all totally possible programmatically with code. Definitely.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. No more questions for today.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, guys, remember your homework is we're building on top of it, right? You're making a workflow, and then you want to make sure you actually make the page for it and edit the page for the workflow to fit your inputs and outputs. Just remember that. So next week, we're going to see some of your workflow pages.
Awesome.
Oh, and I also in Slack, I made my repo public. I put all the changes in there. If you want to pull it, you can just pull it. I'll also put my workflow JSON in here, so you guys can play around with it.
You're awesome, Alisher. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Sarah, I didn't want to close out the space and without you giving any closing notes as well. I know you did earlier a little bit, but did you have any last little?
I just love you all to the moon and back, and I believe in you. And that's not BS. I absolutely, to my core, believe in you. You guys, each and every one of you.
I'm
Well, go
sorry, one
ahead.
second. Alisher, did you post that link in Slack? I'm looking for it. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's the last thing in Slack. There's a link and the workflow in season
Thank you.
7.
Thank you. I just didn't mind. I hadn't caught up yet.
You guys crack me up. I love you. Go on to greatness. I hope that Thursday treats you kindly. Just remember that Alisher and Sharon have changed the day. I think it's a Monday night now of their Friday night class. So it's not an excuse to go out and gallivanting with all of your friends on a Friday night. You should be parking your tail in the chair and building your thing. But I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. We will see you for Innovators Think Tank on Saturday. We did have a bye week last week, and I know that the boys created a whole cool stuff, a whole truckload of it actually for last week that never got to see the light of day. So I do believe that that handiwork will be pulled out of the woodwork in order to play on Saturday night. As always, that's a sandbox moment, folks. So if you are a content creator, or maybe you are a person that gallivants out in the wild world of AI and such, that's first mover advantage. The dog just kind of jumped up and scared the heebie-jeebies out of me.